Hello, Imex. It's me again, your trusted neurodiversity speaker. So thank you for such a lovely afternoon on Tuesday. I had great fun with you, and yes, I do want to still co-work in your offices. Anyway, I'm just going to answer the questions that I missed on the Slido screen. So that was ADHD in action. So with inattentive ADHD, I often miss details, and that can be on forms. And looking at the screen, I was sure in my brain that I had answered all of the questions, when in fact I hadn't. So I'm going to answer them for you now. And feel free to get in touch if you have any more questions. I love answering questions. So, what advice do you have for someone recently diagnosed with ADHD, still figuring out next steps on how to manage this and work with the rest of life? Well, that's a huge question. So what I would say is focus on the first step, which would be to give yourself time, give yourself space to understand what it means for you to process. There will be grief. When people are identified later in life, there's grief that comes with it, because quite naturally questions will arise such as, would my life have been different had I had known when I was a child? And all of however you feel is totally valid. It's about giving space for those emotions to move through you. And maybe, sorry, my screen keeps going dark. Maybe you need therapy to process that. Maybe you need coaching. There are plenty of coaches out there that can help you process your post-diagnosis information. So another thing I would say is find community. That could be in the form of a Facebook group, but just be wary. Some of them are not very positive. So finding Facebook groups, if that's your thing. Instagram, there's some great people to follow on there, and yes, even TikTok. So there's a lot of us out here sharing our knowledge, so tap into that. There's also meetup groups, support groups. There's ADHD Aware. That's a Brighton-based charity. They have online support groups. They have in-person support groups. I don't know if I mentioned, I run an informal meetup group with a couple of friends, Helen and Tim, and that's the third Thursday of every month at our Campo Lounge. And it's just a meetup, really social, really informal, and it's just lovely. You can just unmask and be yourself. So you're very welcome to join us there. Many of us are autistic and ADHD. Some are just ADHD. You're very welcome to come along there. Get in touch if you want more details. So I think first step, give yourself time, space and grace, and find some support in community or professional support if you're struggling with your mental health. There you go. Oh, this is a good one. Can autism come and go in some situations? It's always there. It's always present. It doesn't come and go, but what that might look like, and the reason you may have said that because sometimes your autistic colleague might appear to be just fine, and usually that doesn't mean the autism has gone away. It means that their sensory needs are met. They know what they're doing. They're not being interrupted every 5 minutes with, goodness forbid, a tap on the shoulder. So this, I could have spoken to you all day. So touch is for some neurodivergent people, touch can be an issue. So whether it's unexpected. So when people in the past, when I've been in office environments, tap me on the shoulder when I'm deep focused on some work, for me, it makes, when you get made jump, it's that times 1,000. Whole nervous system is like, what? And it could go into fight or flight very easily. There have been times where I've given a stroppy response, like, don't do that. Or just felt like I wanted to cry inside. So, does it come and go? It doesn't come and go. It can show up more in certain situations, and it can not show up. The thing is, what you're seeing on the outside is nothing. You only see what somebody is doing, you know, but on the inside, it's always there. So it doesn't come and go, but certain situations might make traits a bit more pronounced. You know, if there's a lot of change going on, that could cause a lot of anxiety, and that could change. You could see a change in behaviours, or you might not. If they're high masking, we're very good at covering up our anxiety. So as with everything I talk about, you have to get to know the individual. There's no good thinking, oh, they're autistic, they need this, this and that. Absolutely not, because we're all so different, and we all have different lives, different personalities, we've had different upbringings. We're all so individual and unique. So you have to have these conversations and work it out. Sometimes work it out together. The autistic person may not have all the answers, depending on where they are in their kind of understanding of what autism means to them. They might not have a clue what they need. So the onus is, you know, it can't be on the neurodivergent person to have all the answers. A teamwork, a collaborative approach is always the best way. How can we work this out together? Another question. There seems to have been a rise in ADHD diagnoses. Do you think this is a positive thing? Yes, absolutely, 100%. So some people say, oh, everybody's ADHD these days. And that is so dismissive and so invalidating for those people that have spent a lifetime feeling like a failure because they can't adult or they can't function like very well as a human. Yet, like as I said, I can function very well when I'm interested and playing to my strengths. So what does a diagnosis do? It gives understanding, it gives permission, it gives so many things that it's, like I said in the talk, it's not just life-changing, this can be life-saving, because so many people that I work with, once they realise that they're ADHD, whether they're diagnosed or not, whether they've worked it out for themselves, both are equally valid, they start to take the pressure off. Their inner critic kind of, they think, actually, I've been really hard on myself. I couldn't help this stuff. So, yes, it's a positive thing. Absolutely, 100%. Oh, this is an interesting, controversial question. Do you think some people seek a diagnosis to justify their negative behaviours? Does this undermine the validity of actual diagnoses? Honestly, I've not met one person in all of my life, through teaching, through coaching, through my own lived experience, that people have sought the diagnosis to justify their negative behaviours. It might look like that from the outside, possibly, but no, I would say no. There will be a few that say, well, I've got ADHD. Actually, when I was working in Hastings for an alternative education organisation, and I was working with I think he was an 18-year-old and his mum to support them, and he said he did try and use it as an excuse. He's like, well, I've got ADHD, I can't help it. And I said, look, son, I didn't call him son, that would be very weird. I said, ADHD is a reason for some of the challenges you have, but it's never an excuse. So there will be the occasional person that says, well, I can't help it. And that's not really to do with ADHD, that's to do with a fixed mindset, isn't it? Well, that's it, I can't do anything about it. But no, not in my vast experience have I ever had anyone do that. That's quite a lot to go through. You don't just go to you don't just rock up at the psychiatrist and say, hey, I think I've got ADHD, what do you think? And they go, oh yes, I think so, off you go. No, this is a huge process and it's really stressful. Okay, it can be exciting as well, but it's very stressful, it's very intense, it's very pressured. And it's it's hard to go through, because you're not talking about excuse me, all the great things about you. You don't even mention that. You're talking about all of your challenges that you've had throughout your life, and that's re-traumatizing. So nobody goes into this and thinks, this is going to be easy, or they might, but they get a shock. This is in depth. This isn't a tick box. I think there is like a screening questionnaire, and that is what it is, a screening questionnaire before you even get to your appointment. It's not a tick box exercise. Mine was like half a day, hours and hours of testing, psychological testing. That's when we found out that my working memory was really bad. And even the psychologist was shocked because of how I present, so able, and I am in many ways. So yeah, there's your answer to that. I think I answered that. Oh, are any of your siblings' parents neurodivergent? Yes. Yes, I would say pretty much my whole family. And they are kind of at various stages of realisation and acceptance around that. A lot of the work I do is very public, so they know, they'll be seeing my stuff on social media. And it's caused, like I say, I had a boundaryless childhood. There was a lot of freedom within that. I was very privileged to be able to go and play on my bike whenever I wanted. But coming from a neurodivergent family who doesn't know that they're neurodivergent can bring with it some real challenges. I won't go into too many of those, but in a nutshell, yes, it runs in families. And quite often when parents are going through the process with their child, they're sitting there in recognition with all of these light bulb moments, like, that was me. But as we get older, we learn to mask and cover up. So yes, they are. And that's it. The rest of the questions I answered on the day. So yeah, thank you. One more thing I wanted to address was, what do you say if somebody confides in you? Because that takes a lot of courage as well. So, that they think they might be ADHD, autistic, or in another way, neurodivergent, dyslexic, dyspraxic, dyscalculia, Tourette, all of those things. So here's what not to say. Oh, everybody does that. You're fine. Don't say that. Okay? It's invalidating, it's dismissive, and it's really heart-wrenching for the person on the receiving end. Don't say, well, you're nothing. My son's daughter's godmother's parent, grandson, child is autistic and you're nothing like them. No, because we're humans first and foremost, and we're all different. Again, really invalidating because it presents so differently. And of course, the stereotypes are still out there. It's taken me years to get comfortable with saying I'm autistic because of those stereotypes. I'm like, well, I don't fit that stereotype. But actually, when you look at all of the key indicators for autism, I do. So it's a real weird one. It's not a weird one. Lost my train of thought. So what can you say instead? Oh, right, okay. How does that affect you? Tell me more. Keep it open. Don't judge. As humans, we are very judgmental, even when we don't mean to be, because we're trying to say the right thing or formulate answers. So just keep it really low key. Tell me more how that affects you. Just be open. And like I said, listen, believe, and accept. Listen to what the person tells you without saying, oh no, we all do that. Believe their experience, accept what they're saying, and commit to supporting them, however that looks. Like I say, you don't have to have it all worked out. They certainly won't have it all worked out. But what's most important is the willingness to listen and understand and help. No one can have it all worked out. I work with people all the time and I can't profess to know them. I have to get to know them, and I have to get to know their strengths and their challenges, and we work together at their pace. So yeah, like I said, I've got loads of blogs, I've got loads of free resources. Do check them out on my website, susiepayton.com, and feel free to email me or get in touch via my website if you have any more questions. I'm really happy to answer them. This is kind of my life's passion. Thank you, and I hope to see you next year.